Hi, my name is Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Today I want to talk about anchor point. So I had particular issues with anchor point and my nose for shooting 90 meters, okay? The problem was when I'm aiming high, so my arm's up high, it means basically my nose, I'm looking through my nose to shoot 90 meters, and it was a problem. So I had to change my anchor point, so I've been trying for 4 weeks with different anchor points so my nose doesn't get in the way for 90 meters. This is not a problem for short distance. It is a problem when you're shooting straight up like that. On the weekend I was shooting a competition, I was going to say state field, I was shooting a competition. It was a 14 meter shot straight up in the air like that. My nose gets in the way again, right? And so I want to talk about that. I want to talk about anchor points. And before I say about this and, you know, like correct form and all that, everything gets back to practice. You can have the worst anchor point and be the world's greatest archer. So I'm going to try and put up a picture of a guy who's won major competitions, one of the best archers in America, and he's got an anchor point you'd never coach anyone to have. But he obviously has it, he obviously practices a lot, and he's very successful. But what I'm just talking about here is standards and why we have them. Okay, so I've got my compound bow. Well, it's not my compound bow, it's my son's compound bow. This is an Elite Exalt. And I'm going to show you my anchor point. I'm going to discuss it. So what you're looking for with an anchor point is something of consistency. If you move from there to there on your face, you're going to move the arrow at 90 meters about that far. So that much distance here on your face will result at 90 meters at that far distance. So if your head's there and then you move it slightly to the side, just like that, at 90 meters, it'll be that far difference. So what we're looking for is to have the exact same point. Now with a compound, you have a peep sight. So it's not such a big deal because you're lining up this sight with this sight. It's more of a deal for a recurve. Still an issue because if you change stuff like pressure points, face contact with the string, you're still going to change where the arrow lands on target. So consistency is the most important. But I'm going to explain my anchor point for compound. So I like the string touching my nose. It gives me certainty that I've hit a point. Okay. With compound, I'm getting these two fingers. I'm shooting back tension, so that'd be the same for a thumb. I'm getting these two fingers into my jaw here. So somewhere along that jawline. Now up here is no good, right? Because the arrow is too high. So I'm looking for it somewhere down here. I'm not wanting to lock my hand in, those two fingers into my jaw. So I think I get string. I'll have a peep, but when I do my videos, I don't have a peep, right? But I'm trying to lock the jaw in because that's getting rid of left and right, and then I'm trying to have the string touch my nose because that's putting my head in the correct position. So we're just going to shoot a shot so I can get the correct position. Now with my son's bow, this is my son's bow, for me to shoot his bow, my hand would be here. Let's get that down. So for me to shoot my son's bow, my hand's down here. But then the peep's down lower. So for him, for some reason, I'd have to watch him shoot, his hand is up much higher than mine. So for my son to shoot, he had trouble shooting 60 meters with a compound, right? He's got to aim high on the target. With me, I'm substantially lower, so I'd be able to shoot 70, 90 meters with no issue. So I'll just repeat the thing. So I'm trying to get my hand in here. Now I won't for this experiment because the peep's too low, but that's what I normally do. I'd start getting my hand in here, then string touching my nose, and then I place the peep. So for this, I'm there. Now that's too high, and I just have the string just touching my nose. Now I want to show you recurve, and I want to show what I've been working on about anchor points. and I want to discuss it as far as what I've found and things you may try. Okay, so what I tried at 90 was I was having trouble seeing because of my nose again. So if I moved my head more square on, I could see clearly, okay? So then I had the point, well, if I had the string just touching my edge of my nose, I could see the target clearly, right? Now this created problems for me for many reasons, because then I lock my hand in under my jaw here. So I have jaw position, string touching here, string touching my nose. I normally have it touching the front of my nose, and I'm normally touching there on my chin. But now I've moved it around to touching here. So I'm going to show you the positions. Now one of the problems I found with this was, one, my left and right varied, because when I touch the edge of my nose here, the arrow will shoot left. So, and the other problem was, because I'm now, instead of hitting the middle of my nose, I'm sometimes a little bit left and sometimes a little bit right on my nose position. So I always gain more variations on my left and right. This will take time, okay? You can't go from shooting your whole life one way to changing a new way and then just expect you to shoot the same scores. That's not going to happen because you don't have that level of consistency. Now what also happened, because I was locking in here, I may have been getting more or less, I'm going to say more or less, like I was getting more up and down movement. Okay, so I'm going to say more draw length, less draw length. But I think I'm just moving up my face a little bit more than when I'm under here at the front more. Back here, I'm getting more variation in up and down and also left and right. But I'll show you the draw. So this is what I've been working on. So my old draw would look like that. So I'm coming in, touching there, very comfortable with that draw. Very comfortable, right? Then I'm going to move like that draw. But I think what's going to happen is also it's going to bring my hand back here, because I want this arm to be in the same angle as the arrow, okay? Because that way I'm not going to get left and right movement. So then I move to back here. So now I'm coming back to this point here on my face. Do that again. First time drawing today, so I'm coming there, and then I'm coming to the middle. Now, it allowed more vision of the target at 90 meters, but it was, the sight picture was still a little bit covered. Now, when it came to the state championship at 90 meters, I had complete clear vision. I don't know if it's because the target was slightly raised or what. Whether the light was good, I don't know, but I had no issues. I could see clearly. But then the other day when I was shooting another competition, and that was only 60 meters, I was having some vision issues again. So then I'm like, well, I really need to get back to the side of my nose. Now, if you look at most of, I'm going to say, the Korean archers, most of the top archers in the world, they'll be in the middle of the nose and down here, and the hand is under this part here, right? So you could run, I could run a kisser button, a nose button on the string to try and shore up those spots, and you'll see many of the top Olympians shooting a kisser button and shooting a little nose button to touch the nose, just to create the reassurance of the same spot. And I considered that, but I was like, too much stuff to change too soon. So I always try and make baby steps. So I'm going to show touching the side of my nose. Now at 18 meters, this is where I practice, 18 meters, touching there in the middle of my nose to touching there on the edge of my nose. So basically it's moving my head from there to there. Results in the arrow moving from the 10. So Middle of the nose is a 10. Edge of the nose is a 9 on the left of the target. Okay? So this is the draw I'm trying to get, because it makes the vision of the target clearer at long distance. So when I go like that, so touching there, complete vision, because my eyes are completely lined up. Now this is an issue. If you've ever seen, I'm going to say, Simon Fairweather shoot in sunglasses at the Olympics, he has ridges, and there used to be an archer called Taylor Worth who was an Australian Olympian. He always shot in Ray-Ban sunglasses. I could never shoot in sunglasses, and it always made me question why they can and I can't. Well, it's because my head was turned and I'm looking through the rim. So my head is turned like that. I'm looking through the rim of the sunglasses. They've got their head straighter, so they're not looking through the rim. The rim's there. They're looking through more here, right? So their head's in a different position, so they can wear normal sunglasses. This is a common problem, and this is why archery-related sunglasses became a thing. So there was XS sunglasses out of England, which I think are now gone. They're either gone or they don't want to do with me. I don't. Probably gone. Because they said they're no longer wholesaling. I don't know if they're no longer making sunglasses. I don't know. But there's pillar glasses which are made for archery, so there's no frames to get in the way. So that way you can hold your head to the side and still see, all right? So I'm going to do it again. Now this comes back to consistency. At the competition on the weekend, there was a young man, and one of the people asked me to see him shoot. He was anchoring to the side of his face here with no string contact with his nose. And the coach wanted to have string contact with the nose, so all he had to do was move his head down to touch the string, all right, on his nose. Because originally he was shooting like this on the side, and all he had to do was move his head down just like that, all right? Again, I'm going to repeat practice. So apparently this young man was ready to throw in the sport. I'm going to say to play computer games. That's not me being hard on him. But I'm going to guess he was playing computer games, right? Because, and I said to him, if you practice 30 hours a night, 15 minutes, you watch what happens to your scores. They will go through the roof. You will be rewarded for the time you put in. And I'm not saying to practice for 2 hours, okay? There are kids in my state who are amazing archers who practice far more than that. And that comes at a cost. And I don't want anyone losing the love for the sport, okay? I appreciate every time I shoot that I hit that middle. That's amazing, okay? I've been shooting for 40 odd years. It's an amazing thing because it's so hard to do the same shot every time, okay? It's so hard to build the muscles. It's so hard to build the consistency. It's so hard to release the shot the same. There is so many variables to get. There's so few people at the elite levels. It's so hard to get to that spot. And the ones who are at the really high elite levels, they're putting in so much time and effort, okay? And I question whether it's worth it. And I'm not saying don't try and do it, because it's an amazing achievement and it's something you should always be very proud of, that you put in that much time. But understand, it's coming at a cost. Now, if your alternative is to sit and play computer games, you go shoot, because computer games is giving you nothing, okay? I've never seen a depressed archer. So, because you're trying to improve. Improving yourself is key. Improving where you're at, and this is a thing about life, improving where you're at, making yourself stronger, making yourself fitter is a thing, right? Improving yourself is something you should strive to do. click at the wrong time. And that's because I'm trying to get that same anchor point. Now, the more I practice, and if I do it every day, I get that anchor point the same, it will just become familiar to me. And I won't have to think. At the moment, I'm thinking, am I hitting here? Am I hitting here? How does this feel? I'm thinking. You want to get to a spot where it's automated. Now you'll see my nose went straight to the middle. I was like, oh no, it's the wrong spot. I've got to move it to the side, okay? This is where it gets to practice, right? When you see a good archer, it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen from 30 minutes training once a week. Chances are they've been putting in lots of work to get to that stage. And I'm going to say positive reinforcement. Positive, give yourself positive reassurance. There's a lot of people who beat themselves up. Oh, I did that wrong. Like, I think I probably got my nose wrong that time, right? But I felt my release was pretty good that time. I felt like my front hand was pretty good that time. I felt like I was still aiming at the shot afterwards. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. I don't do the negative reinforcement stuff. I don't need negativity in my life. I'm very much about positive messages to myself. So when I go out and do this, I feel like I'm doing something good for myself. That it's good for my body. I feel like I'm rewarding myself. Like this year, I didn't do so well at competitions this year. Like I won some stuff, but I didn't do as well as I've done in the past, okay? I didn't train as hard as I have in the past for various reasons. But my strength is up. So I'm like, well, this year I didn't do as well as I've done in the past. But my strength is up. I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. I feel like I'm doing okay. And given the right conditions, well, maybe I would shoot a good score in the right conditions, because we've had atrocious conditions this year in literally every shoot I've shot in. So again, when you're practicing, just focus on positive reinforcement, focus on the bit you're trying to focus on. I'm trying to get my nose on the side, and I score. The reason I score arrows, I use a little app called Archer's Success, which I think costs $10 to buy. The reason I score, it gives me an indication that I'm working. At the end of the week, I can go, well, look, I shot 60 arrows a day. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy to knock off 30 arrows a day. I'm like, that I've gone out there and done it. I'm pretty happy with that. So I think that pretty much covers it. So on the summary, if I go on the edge of my nose, you can see clearly at 90 meters. Front of the nose, front there, I can't see 90 meters. That might be completely different for you because of your size of your nose versus my size of my nose. But understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. I mean, I feel I've been shooting for 40 odd years. And when I changed to Recurve, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea about anything. This is why I produce these videos. I sell archery gear. I had no idea. Like, I've shot Recurve before, but like what I'm going into now, like with the arrow tuning where I shoot 450s or 500s and change the plunger for 450s or 500s, just the whole lot, I had no idea about. like just the difference that the training makes. The more I train, the higher my scores are, the steadier I am, the stronger I am. There's a difference between shooting 30 arrows a night and shooting once a week. There's a difference. There's a difference between shooting 60 arrows a night and 30 arrows a night. And there's a difference between shooting twice a day and 60 arrows, all right? So, and ensure that you reward yourself for what you're doing, okay? So anyway, I'll leave it there. Anchor points on the face. Try them out, see what works for you. It's not easy. That's what I'm going to leave it is. It's not easy. You can have success with anything as long as you're repeatable. I'm Stephen Ham from Archery Supplies. Thanks for watching. Bye.